These are my rudder pedals. They're based on a project by Taumelscheibe and with modifications by Duke Roger and an idea by Fast Indie as well. So this is a remix of several different projects. And I really love this. I am a real world pilot as well as a simulation pilot. And so I want my rudder pedals to feel as close as possible to a real world aeroplane. They're not as stiff. They don't give you as much feedback as a real world aeroplane. But in terms of size and shape and placement, they're pretty close. Primarily the remix is the battle pedals by Duke Roger with also some really cool supports like these ones by Fast Indie. So thanks to them. What I'm going to do is, as you can see, it's partially disassembled already. I'm going to fully disassemble the various bits and reassemble them in front of you. Apologies for the general low production quality with a hamster cage on one side and my collection of speed benchy prints on the other. This is a bit of space I had, so that's what I'm doing. I just want to get the video out to you. Okay, let's look first of all at this. I'll disassemble it and then reassemble it in front of you. All the bearings in this project are skate bearings with an outer diameter of 22 millimeters, inner diameter of 8 millimeters, and a thickness of 7 millimeters. You need 13 of those in total. Take one of them along with this, which is called bearing axle, the bearing axle part. You just print one of those, insert that into the center of the bearing, and you need an M4 by 20 screw. And this part is called slider, and you print one of those as well. That slots in there, and the screw goes through the center, and you need an M4 nut in the bottom. I've used nice black screws with hex Allen key heads, which look very nice from the parts. Okay, that's the slider. There are 5 aluminium 20 by 20 aluminium extrusions in this project. This is the shortest, and it is 150 millimeters long. You will need T-nuts on the end of that for the first part of this task. All of my T-nuts are 3D printed with an M5 nut inserted in them, an M4 nut, and they're a real pain to use. I recommend just buy some T-nuts. 3D printing them turned out to be not the best plan. Anyway, so this part, when you print it, you'll find you can't see straight through it. There's a little floor in the middle of there, a flat bit, which allows printing without support. So that'll need breaking off and cutting through. But once you've done that, this part goes on so that screws go through those 2 holes into those 2 T-nuts. So I'll just put that on there. And I find aligning the T-nuts can sometimes most easily be done by using an Allen key to just stick down the hole and get the holes aligned. There we go. And then these have M4 by 10 millimeters long screws. I'll just do them loosely to start with until I know they're both well in place. Okay, that's good. And then into the end, you need to screw an M5 screw. So both ends of this alley extrusion need an M5 hole tapping into them. And actually most of the extrusions for this project, 3 of them at least, need M5 holes tapping into the end. So M5 screw drops into there, and I get screwed in and tighten the 2 M4s. We're going to do exactly the same thing on the other end of this extrusion, But before we do that, we need to install another few parts. The slider, which we've already made, can now be installed with the bearing facing this way. I recommend putting some grease on the slider, and you'll find that you need to run it up and down and loosen it up a bit after printing. It takes a while till it has a really nice, easy movement, but there we go. That's the slider. Now, there's a stop for the slider, which needs 2 T-nuts, or I just printed a double T-nut. That goes over there, and I might as well install the stop now. It'll need adjusting later, but there's the stop. It has 2 M4x10 screws, and I'll tighten them up for now, but later on adjust the position. That affects the travel of the pedals in the end, because the slider moves up and down as the camera rotates. You'll see how it works in the end, but that affects how far the pedals move. You will also need another T-nut on this side if you choose to mount your USB your Arduino in a box on this side. You'll need a T-nut over there, and one on top for the position. There's a position sensor that needs this one, and then finally, in order to put the opposite end on, we'll need the same 2 T-nuts, one on each side. And we can now install this end exactly the same way as we installed the first one. I won't bore you with the details. We're now going to look at how to assemble this assembly. You're going to make 2 of these assemblies ultimately. So whatever you see in this, print double. For this part, you're going to need some special bits and pieces. You need a rod like this with diameter 6 millimeters and length about, well, that one's 72 millimeters long, so around about that length. You need you need one of these for each pedal. These springs, you'll need 2 of them, and they're mirror images of each other. So there you go, see? So 2 of them per pedal. The instructions for winding them are given by Taumelscheibe in his original document. And they are they're made of, these are 1.8 millimeter diameter spring steel. There's there you go, you can see close up. So there's about 6 rotations, so I suppose that's 6 1/4. And as you can see, the ends of them I've ended up with just over 90 degrees. About one of them's 90, that one's just over 90. So that's about the angle you want. The tail is around 30 millimeters long. It doesn't have to be absolutely exact, but it's about 30 millimeters. And then finally, you're going to need some magnets, neodymium magnets. These have a diameter of 6 millimeters, and I've actually got 2, one on top of the other. I don't know if you can see that in the camera here, which 4 millimeters in thickness. So each of those is 2 millimeters. If you can get a 6x4, that'll work as well. I think, but I'm not sure, that the calibration in the software, certainly in my version of the software, can handle the magnets being in either way around. So polarity is not important, but I can't remember whether that's absolutely true. So that will require some experimentation when you have finished assembling the thing. Oh look, the hamsters are awake and moving around. To assemble it, you have another one of these aluminium extrusions, 20 by 20, 150 millimeters long, with M5 hole tapped in the end, and again we have the T-nuts slotted into the end, and the pieces we stick onto the end of this is exactly the same as what we had before. So that goes onto there. You've got 2 M4 screws there and there, and an M5 screw. I'll show you how that goes in. M5 screw, pop it into there, and there we go. I'll just pop that in loosely for now. There we go, and then that enables me to get the M4 screws lined up. And I can now tighten the M5, and after that the two M4s. You might be able to see that I have already inserted some M3 square, thin square M3 nuts. And you'll need, I think you need 5 of those in total for this project. So those go into the holes on the sides there, so making threaded holes there, which we'll use later. So those in there. And now we're going to assemble the pedal. First, get the 2 springs, and there's some holes on the sides here. So the springs are installed in the holes like that, so that the center of the spring lines up with that hole over there. And the other one on the other side in the same way. There we go. And we insert that into there. And the 6mm rod, there's a hole on the side here. If you print this as a mirror image when you do the next one, then it's going to be on the other side. It doesn't really matter terribly much. There is a smaller hole on that side just so you can shove something down there to push the 6mm rod out if you ever want to disassemble it. So if you want it to look absolutely perfectly symmetrical, you'll need to mirror this when you print it. But if you don't, it's absolutely, the functionality is absolutely the same. Same with this part, actually. If you mirror it, it means you can put the sensor on the opposite side and the wires will come out and it'll all look nice. But to be honest, if you print these two not mirrored, it doesn't matter because you can put the magnet in either hole at the top here. We'll get to that. Anyway, so slot your 6mm rod in through the center of the spring, find the hole in this part, carry on through, out the other side into the next spring. Get something to help you shove it through, and there we go. As far in as it'll go, it should go beyond that hole. So so it goes all the way in, and we're now going to stick a screw in there. This is an M3 by 20mm screw. And it goes into that hole there, and it keeps that metal rod in place. And that just screws into the plastic. There isn't any retaining. It really doesn't have a huge amount of force on it, just potentially a tiny bit of sideways force from the hinge pin. So there we go. That's screwed in. That's your pedal. Later on we're going to put a stop in there, but that's later. Now we shall insert the sensor. I'll leave it to you to get the Hall effect sensor attached to a wire, and once you have, that goes with the beveled side upwards into this hole. And you want to check that it is going all the way down into the hole. Basically, once it's in the hole all the way, it should be positioned about there so that when the magnet comes down, it's right on top of the Hall effect sensor, and the magnet goes in that hole over there. So there you go, Hall effect sensor all the way in, and that has a little bracket. This is symmetrical, so you don't have to print them. You can print them both identical to each other. And that has a small M4 by about 6mm long. And that goes in here. And again, the thread is just tapped straight into the plastic by the screw. And that keeps the sensor in place. Now, to keep the cables nice and tidy, I've made some of these, which they can just clip. If you press them, they clip directly into there, but occasionally they break off, so it might be better generally to slide them. And what I do is that goes around there, pop it on the end, slide it in, Pop it on the end. I find about 3 of these along here. Works nicely. Pop it on the end, slide it in. And then finally, I'm going to install this. And this installs in exactly, this can install either way up. And it installs in exactly the same way as that. And in fact, as those parts installed. So 2 T-nuts there. M5 threaded hole over there, so there's an M5 nut through the end, and an M5 screw through the end, and M4 screws on either side. Now we place the magnet in whichever of those holes is above the sensor. In this case, it's that one, and there we go. That's in there, and so that now I'm bang it, just try and get it to come out a little bit. I'll push it in slightly further. It'd be better to be closer to the surface because then it's more sensitive. But there you go. That's that. Just as an interruption, actually, to the video, I finished everything, and then I've had this idea. I've created something called sidebar.step, which is that part, and the 20 by 20, this 150 millimeter 20 by 20 extrusion, all in one printed part. I have not printed it, and I haven't tried it, but I think it will work. And it will save having to buy the 20 by 20 extrusion. It'll save 1, 2, 3, 4 M4 screws and M4 T-nuts, and it'll save on 2 M5 screws that go in the ends there. So that should actually make the whole thing lighter and cheaper. So if you want to try sidebar.step, I'd love to hear how that goes, rather than buying all those extra parts. Now to install the bearings. So again, roller skate bearings, 22 millimeters outside, 7 millimeters thick, 8 millimeter inner diameter, and these have all the bearings have all the hinge bearings. So all the ones that are remaining have a part like this called bearing spacer 20 millimeters, and this bearing already has one of those installed in it and an M6 screw through it. So this M6 screw is 40 millimeters long. And for both this side and this side, it's going to be identical. You place the bearing with the bearing holder 20 millimeters inserted with the reason it's got a hexagonal shape is it can be really helpful they want to get stuck on the thread here. You can just use a spanner to screw it up and down the thread, or just to grip it. Once it's inside there, it's pretty hard to get hold of unless you've got a nice hexagonal shape and you can use a spanner. Anyway, that's already in, so pop that into the hole over there and turn it over and place. Here's another bearing with one of those bearing spacer 20 millimeters already inserted into it. Place that over there. You'll find when they're freshly printed, they don't slide on quite as easily as this, so you just have to work at it. There you go. That's that. And it's going to need a washer. Somewhere I have M6 washers. I'll find them in due course. The other side gets done the same way. So through there, it goes a whole load deeper, but that's fine. And this one with its bearing space of 20 millimeters in it, and that goes on that way. And that part is now ready. I've just spotted the washers, found them, so they'll go over there and there. So what I've just done that's a common thing with the hinges. You'll see 2 bearings, the various spaces, and the washers. There's a slight variation with some of them, but that's largely it. You're going to create 2 of those parts, and once they're installed, they'll look like this. So that's the job half done. There's some extra parts on here. I'll show you how to assemble those in due course. So I'm going to show you how to install the part with the pedal onto the 2 other parts. These extrusions are 250 millimeters long, and the original Taumelscheibe one has 350 millimeter horizontal extrusions. I found 250 puts the pedals closer together, much more like a real aeroplane. I compared it with a Piper Warrior PA-28. which I actually flew, so I know. And but also it reduces the length of the lever arm from the center to there, which gives you more feedback from the feedback springs. So 250 millimeter horizontal extrusions, and I'll show you how to install that. Okay, so first things first, these 250 millimeter extrusions need 3 M6 holes drilling and tapping into them. So that'll be something like a 5mm drill, and then tap with an M6 tap. You can get away with not tapping the holes and using M6 nuts instead, and then you'll need slightly the 40 millimeter bolts will need to be a little bit longer for the nuts. But I thought it was really neat. Just have an M6 tapped it, and it comes out really neatly. These are 10 mils in from the end, and that one is right in the middle. Once you've done that with both of the rods, but both of the extrusions, both of them are going to need exactly two M4 T-nuts. So it's installed 2 M4 T-nuts on both of them, and for one of them it's going to be upwards like that. That's the one furthest from the pedals, and the one closest to the pedals, it's going to be this way, facing backwards. The 2 T-nuts facing backwards, closest to the pedals, furthest from the pedals, the 2 T-nuts facing upwards. Right, let's install one of these pedals onto here. So there's your bearing. Remember, M6 washer for spacing, and that now just places directly onto there. And because I've got an M6 thread in there, I can just screw it directly through that thread. This, remember, is the extrusion that's furthest from the pedals are at that end, extrusion, and the M6 nuts are upwards. And so that just screws in all the way. Careful not to pinch the wire whilst you're doing it. There we go, nice tight join there, but rotates beautifully. The wire is going to end up running down there, and you'll have the same on the opposite side. Right, so having done that one, the other one's going to be installed exactly the same in that direction. Remember, with the nuts facing backwards. So we've already got this. I didn't disassemble it completely, so you're going to end up with 4 of them looking like that. Those 2 nuts. Oh, I've lost one. Oh no, there we go. One there and one there. They're facing backwards, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Here we go. That's that assembled. So it goes like that. You'll notice this pedal's flopped forward and that one isn't. That's because I never fully disassembled that one. And you can see the pedal stop over there is in place here, but not there. I've provided one size of that, but you can there's a step file. You can change the size, and just by adding an extension on the end of it, and that changes where the pedal comes to. So it changes the rest position of the pedal. I've got it in a position that feels pretty natural to me. And so let's install the other one. Here it is, and this has M3 screws, and so it's M3 by 12 screws. And that just needs to be, press the pedal all the way, insert the stop over there, and put the screws in, and they go into those square M3 nuts that we talked about earlier. Okay, so that's how. Let's just get the wires running nicely. So in my version, both of the sensors are on the right hand side because I forgot to print that one symmetrical. I've also ignored that. That was an experiment. It doesn't really do anything. You could if you printed that one as a mirror image of that one, you could have your wire running inside. Either way, they run along the bottom, and then bring them into the inside of the back channel there, and I've got them crossing over each other, and I use my again use my little clips to hold the wires in. So I'm actually just going to do it by pressing them this time. So clip, and I've got around about I've got 4 of those in total. You could potentially slide them on from the ends there. I was just going to find that a lot harder to do in front of the camera. And then once you've got that, there are some end caps which just make this look nice. So there's 4 of those in total for the whole project, and they just go on the ends of these 250mm extrusions. There we go, that's looking quite nice, isn't it? All right. We now need to install that bit onto this bit, and get some springs and sensors and things in place, and then the project's done. So let's install this now. For this we have longer screws, and these ones again M6, but they are 60mm long, and they require 2 M6 nuts. They go into the central hole. Strictly speaking, you don't really need to tap this hole, but I find that it makes the whole thing a whole load firmer. So you could actually just have a 6mm hole and drop the screw through it. I quite like tapping the hole and screwing it all the way down until it's tight. But there's going to be a nut on the other side, so as I say, you don't, strictly speaking, have to tap the holes. Make sure with this one that the T-nuts are on either side of it. Tighten that up. And screw that one in all the way. Turn the assembly over, and so the first thing that's going to go on these is M6 washers. And then we'll put some bearings with again these spacers that are I think it's bearing spacer 20mm, and the spacer is going to be facing away from the pedal assembly, so that goes on there, all the way on. One on each side. Now we actually need extra space between the bearings for the next thing. So I've got some of these. I think these are called bearing spacer 30mm. They're just extra spacers, and they slot on over there. So there's 2 of those in total. And the bearing spacer 20mm. There's going to be 12 of those in total. And we can now place this assembly on top of this assembly. Oh, actually it's underneath. And we want to do it so that this slider, the bearing part of the slider, is facing the pedals. So we do it that way round. And pop the bearings home into their slots. We now have 2 more bearings to install. Again, each bearing with a spacer. Place that into the hole over there with the spacer inwards, or the hexagonal part of the spacer inwards. Same on the back, hexagonal part of the spacer inwards, pop it on, and then these are going to be tightened with M6 nuts. You go one on there, one on there, and nice and tight. Right, there we go. There's your pedal assembly. We just need to install the sensor for rotation and the spring assembly here and the cam over here. So let's do that. Let's install the cam first. This is the version of the cam I use. It's quite different from the originals by Taumelscheibe. This one is designed to make optimum use of the springs that I have, and so the 2 T-nuts that were in this extrusion, it goes into those and gets screwed on. These are M4 by 10 screws. Before tightening it, what you want is for the slider to be perfectly central when the whole thing's square. So get it square, so the whole arrangement is square. It looks close enough to me, and I'm just going to do it by eye. You could use a set square if you wanted. And so the slider is right in the center of the cam, and now we can tighten the cam in place. Now we come to assembling this, which holds the magnets for the rotational, the sensing of rotation. There's 2 magnets, one down each hole. Again, there are these 6mm diameter, 2mm thick neodymium magnets, and one goes down each hole. So you print one of these parts, 2 magnets, and these parts just help the magnets to make sure they stay in properly and go all the way down the hole. So it's got a little screwdriver slot at the end there. So we pop the magnets in. Now the key thing here is both magnets need to be aligned north-south, either both north facing that way or north facing that way. So I've already got one installed over here. So I'll just try and find out which way round. Yeah, that one wants to be that way round. So that is that way there, which means I want it that way up in here. There we go. And then I'll just stick the little plug in, and actually I can just shove it down, screw it to make sure it's tight. There we go. So there's 2 of those, one in each side. And that will mount opposite end to the pedals onto those 2 T-nuts that we left in there earlier. Again, M4, 10mm M4 screws for these. And you want to make that absolutely central, if at all possible. So that looks pretty central to me. What I'll do is I won't completely tighten these, but once we've got the sensor in place, then we'll see just how central it really is. So the sensor is going to mount onto this T-nut, and it's in this part here. You print one of these, so that part sits on top of there with that part down that hole. So the part here goes into that hole between the two magnets, and you need an M4 12mm countersunk screw. Drop it down that hole into the T-nut and screw that on. Yeah, so I think that is pretty central. Place that right in the middle of that hole. The sensor's going to be in the middle of there. So I'm going to tighten these up off camera. This project has 3 Hall effect sensors in total, and this one doesn't need as long a wire. I didn't tell you the length of the other wires. I tell you what, I'll measure all 3, and let me pause, and then I can tell you. So yes, this wire is about 200 millimeters, and then plus the Hall effect sensor on that's soldered on the end, and the other wires going to the pedals are about 470 millimeters long. So this wire for sensing the rotation, it goes up through. There's a hole at the back there, pops up through there, and comes along here and down into, and you want to push it, make sure it goes down all the way to the bottom of that hole. And I found it's helpful to jam it in with so this is the end of a cable tie, and I find that just popping that in there helps to jam that part in nicely into place. And then finally, to make it look nice, this has a little cap that goes over the top of it. There's a square thin M3 nut there, and so that gets screwed into place with a rather short M3 screw. The M3 screw is 5 mils long. I'll screw it into place and then show you what it looks like off camera. Okay, there it is. That's the cap and the screw holding in place. The wire comes out there. So there's your 3 wires. The final thing to do, is to set up the springs. And I think what I'll do before that, though, is I'll mount this on a board. This is the mounting board, and it's got some holes on it for the ends of these M6 screws and the nuts. Those holes are 190 millimeters apart. So 190 millimeters from there to there. And then out to the side of those holes, 70 millimeters to either side. So this total distance 140. You need just a small hole for a wood screw on either side. So 140 across there, 140 across there, and 190 between those 2 parallel lines. I will include these, which are carpet grippy parts, which, because I find that my rudder pedals go flying all over the place without these. I think I've got 2 of them at the moment. I need a few more. So those are on the bottom of the board. Those are just felt pads, and they don't help very much, but these are great. Some countersunk wood screws. Finally, we install the screws, the springs. You can use the sensor holder from Taumelscheibe, or you can use the one from Duke Roger. This is my version, and basically the holes in here for the Taumelscheibe uses shock absorbers from RC cars in between here, and it's mainly the springs. I think the shock, I'm not sure the shock part of it actually does much. I bought some cheap rubber shock absorbers. They never worked as shock absorbers. They're basically just with things that held springs, and these holes are for those. Different shock absorbers are going to have different holes, so you might want a different sensor holder. Or you can use the trick I've used, which I'll show you in a second. What I've done is I decided I didn't need the shock absorber part, so I just kept the springs. And I made printed parts that work with these springs. So these springs are outer diameter is about 16 millimeters, and the thickness of the wire is 1.2 millimeters, and their total length is 70 millimeters. And basically, you want springs with as much force as you can get. A higher spring constant as you can get is ideal, because you've got quite a lot of leverage with these pedals. I've made these printed parts, and they just go on the ends of the springs, and they slot into the slider and into the sensor holder. So that part slots into there, and that part, so you want two of each of these and two springs. That part slots in over there, and then inserting a spring is pretty easy. You put the spring on one end and compress it and pop it over the other end. This, by the way, is actually even easier if you do the cam as the last thing, but there you go, that's done. And I'll do both of those. After you've assembled the whole thing, you need to wire up the electronics. I'm not going to show you, well, I mean, I will show you what I've done, which is different to Taumelscheibe's. And this is a prototype and not really fit for sharing. In fact, it's so bad that there's no support for the USB connector, and it broke off, and I've had to solder the wires onto the board. So don't do it my way. Do it, use Taumelscheibe's instructions for doing the electronics, or roll your own. But what I've done is I've adjusted his bracket that goes on the box for the electronics, so that it will mount on here, and I've included that file. And that's it. It's my Rudder pedals. Look, they work. They're wonderful. I love them. I hope you do too.